The humans had heard stories, whispers in the galaxy that made even the bravest species shiver. The Galactic Union called it the Crucible of Champions, a military trial designed to destroy anyone who was weak, unprepared, or foolish enough to challenge it. No human had ever survived it. In the records, their attempts were laughed at, written off as foolish dreams, and yet here they were. Captain Alara James stood at the front of the small transport ship, her hands gripping the railing as the massive spaceport came into view. Towering towers of metal and glass stretched toward the stars. Ships of every imaginable shape hovered around them, some sleek and shiny, others dark and armored like beasts of war. The air was electric with tension. Alien species of every type scuttled, flew, or floated through the port, their eyes glowing in colors humans couldn't even name. Many stopped to stare at the small dented ship carrying humans. A few even laughed. Ilara's crew, a mix of humans from Earth, Mars, and the lunar colonies, shifted nervously beside her. She could feel their fear, their doubt, and she understood it perfectly. This trial was meant to crush them, to prove that humans were fragile, unfit, and insignificant. Most species believed humans were weak, fragile creatures whose best hope was to survive quietly in the shadow of greater powers. But fear had never stopped humans. Not on Earth, not on Mars, not on any of the worlds they had fought to survive. Humans were survivors. They were adaptable, stubborn, and relentless. And in that moment, Alara saw the same fire she had seen in countless faces back home. They were scared, but they were ready. The ship landed with a metallic thud. The ramp descended, and the crew stepped onto the platform. Immediately, the sounds of the port assaulted them. Alien languages shouted over loudspeakers, the hiss of machinery, the roar of engines, and the clattering of boots and claws on metal. A Krenath general, towering over 3 humans stacked together, stepped forward, his green-scaled face twisted in a sneer. "You will fail," he said in a voice that rattled the metal floor. "Your species is not meant for this trial. You do not belong here." Alara did not respond. She had learned long ago that fear spoke louder than words. She simply nodded to her team. Each human straightened their back, squared their shoulders, and followed her as they entered the crucible. The first trial began immediately. The humans were thrown into a desert arena, unarmed, facing acid storms, searing heat, and predators that moved faster than any human could run. Other species screamed, fell, or froze in fear. The humans, however, adapted. They used the environment to their advantage, digging trenches for shelter, creating shields from metal scraps and rocks, and even taming one of the smaller predators to help them. Lieutenant Ramos from Mars grabbed a glowing stone and held it like a torch, signaling his teammates to move when the acid rain fell. Mei-Ling, a sharp-minded strategist, noticed the patterns of the storms and led them safely through deadly areas. Every human had a role, every action was precise. By the time the trial marshals returned to inspect them, the humans were alive, battered but unbroken. A marshal whispered to another, his voice filled with disbelief. How are they still standing? This should have destroyed them." Ilara's heart beat fast, not from fear but from exhilaration. Every test, every challenge was supposed to break them. And yet, each one seemed to make them stronger. Humans did not just survive, they thrived. As the desert storm faded and the first trial concluded, Alara looked at her team. Dust covered their faces, cuts streaked their arms, and sweat soaked their clothes. Yet in their eyes burned determination, courage, and the unshakable belief that no trial, no matter how brutal, could crush the spirit of a human being. For the galaxy, this was supposed to be the end of humans. For Alara and her crew, it was only the beginning. The second trial began the moment the humans stepped into the arena. This time it was combat. A brutal test designed to show the galaxy that humans were weak, incapable fighters. The arena floated above a bottomless pit, its edges glowing red like molten metal. Weapons appeared, sleek and deadly, and their opponents were not ordinary soldiers. These were species trained from birth to kill, bred for war. Most participants froze, unsure how to move. The Krenath warriors sharpened their claws, their eyes glowing with a predator's hunger. The Tarvok, massive and armored, stomped forward, shaking the platform with each step. Many alien species had trained for years, studying strategy and fighting techniques. The humans had instinct, courage, and the bond between them. Captain Alara James took a deep breath. "Remember what we are," she whispered. "We survive, we adapt. We fight together," and together they moved. Humans did not attack like the other species. They did not rely on raw strength or speed. Instead, they improvised. They used the arena itself, the walls, the floor, the shadows, to create traps. A glowing energy barrier became a makeshift shield. Broken metal beams became spears. Rocks and debris were launched with precision. Every move was calculated, fast and unexpected. Lieutenant Ramos, the young Martian, darted between two massive Krenath soldiers. Using their momentum against them, he tripped one, sending it sprawling over the edge of the platform. Mei-Ling, clever and quick, ducked under a Tarvok's swinging arm, spinning around to push it off balance. The humans did not just fight. They danced around their enemies, turning chaos into advantage. From the sidelines, alien marshals whispered among themselves. "Impossible," one said. "They should be dead. Every test is lethal. Yet they adapt?" Even the other species began to notice. The humans' unpredictable style made them dangerous in a way no one had anticipated. While traditional fighters relied on power, humans relied on creativity, teamwork, and instinct. When one teammate was in trouble, another was always there to help. When a path seemed blocked, they found another route. When fear threatened to paralyze them, they pushed forward together. Ilara felt the adrenaline surge through her body. Every battle was intense, every heartbeat a reminder that the galaxy doubted them. But she could see it, small sparks of hope forming among some of the alien spectators. Even the Tarvok, massive and terrifying, seemed momentarily impressed as it struggled to keep up with the humans' agility and quick thinking. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. By the end of the trial, humans stood victorious, not because they were stronger or faster, but because they had worked as one. They had taken a trial meant to destroy them and turned it into a game of skill and unity. The marshals approached, unable to hide their astonishment. "This species, how? They should have fallen instantly," one muttered. "They fight differently, yet effectively." Ilara wiped sweat from her brow and looked at her crew. Their faces were tired, bruised, and streaked with blood, but their eyes burned brighter than any warrior she had ever seen. She smiled faintly. This was what she had known all along. Humans did not give up. Humans did not break. Humans turned every challenge into an opportunity. Even some aliens whispered to one another, awed by what they had seen. Rumors began to spread through the arena. Humans were not ordinary. They were unpredictable, dangerous, resilient. As the sun, or what passed for a sun in the arena, set over the floating platform, the humans took a moment to catch their breath. They had survived again, against odds the galaxy considered impossible. And in that moment, they understood something profound. Every trial, no matter how cruel, only made them stronger. Ilara looked at her team and whispered, more to herself than anyone else, "They thought this would break us. They have no idea what we are capable of." And the humans, battered, exhausted, and determined, prepared for the next trial, ready to show the galaxy that no matter what came, they would not just survive, they would thrive. After surviving the brutal combat, the humans were led into a new arena, one that seemed almost ordinary at first glance. But this was the Crucible's deadliest test yet, not of strength or speed, but of the mind. The mental gauntlet. It was designed to crush hope, to make even the strongest species surrender. The air shimmered as illusions flickered across the arena. Walls became endless corridors. Friends became enemies. Lost homes, forgotten worlds, and past failures appeared in vivid detail, attacking the humans from every angle. The other species faltered immediately, many screaming, freezing, or collapsing under the psychological assault. Ilara stepped forward, keeping her gaze steady. She felt the weight of memories pressing on her mind. She saw her childhood home on Mars, burning under the collapse of the colonies, her parents' faces twisted in fear and pain. The illusion whispered that she had failed them, that she was weak and that she would never survive. Her body trembled, but her heart did not break. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Around her, her team was struggling but not surrendering. Lieutenant Ramos gritted his teeth as visions of his lost friends in the asteroid mines attacked his thoughts. Mei-Ling's eyes welled up as images of her destroyed lunar city appeared. Yet each human reached for the other, holding hands, giving whispered encouragements, reminding each other of reality and purpose. Ilara's voice rose, steady and strong. "We survived before. We survive now. Together. Always." The humans began to move as one, linking arms. focusing not on fear but on each other. When illusions tried to pull them apart, they pulled closer. When the walls of the arena seemed endless, they found deep paths together. When despair whispered in their ears, they answered with courage. Aliens on the sidelines could not understand. "How?" one marshal muttered. "No species can resist this. They should be broken." But humans were different. Centuries of survival had forged their minds into instruments of resilience. They were used to hardship, loss, and despair. Pain was not a weakness, it was a teacher. And humans had learned well. As the illusions grew more intense, Ilara saw something remarkable. Her crew was smiling despite the pressure. Not because they were fearless, but because they refused to give in. They encouraged each other with jokes, small gestures, and memories of better days. They reminded themselves why they were here, not just to survive, but to prove the galaxy wrong. Hours passed in the mental arena, each second stretching into eternity. Yet no human surrendered. Others fell, but humans endured. They walked through firestorms of the mind, embracing their fear, pain, and doubt, and using it as fuel. When the trial finally ended, the illusions vanished. The humans were exhausted, bodies trembling, hearts racing, minds raw, but their eyes shone brighter than ever. They had survived what was meant to destroy them, not through brute force, but through unity, resilience, and unbreakable spirit. The marshals whispered in disbelief. They actually endured it. Ilara looked at her team, her chest heaving, a faint smile breaking through the fatigue. "You see?" she said softly. "They thought they could break us. But humans turned trials into strength." Around them, some alien spectators were quietly whispering, a mixture of awe and fear in their voices. This was a new sight in the Crucible. Humans, not just surviving the impossible, but standing taller because of it. As they exited the mental gauntlet, Ilara placed a hand on Ramos's shoulder and nodded. "One step closer," she said. "The galaxy hasn't seen anything yet," and with that, the humans marched forward, hearts heavy but spirits unshakable, ready for the trials that still awaited, knowing that no challenge could truly crush them when they faced it together. By the time the humans exited the mental gauntlet, something had changed. Whispers spread across the arena like wildfire. The humans, once considered weak and expendable, were no longer simply participants, they had become anomalies. Every species that had watched them survive and adapt began to reconsider what they thought they knew. Ilara noticed it first during a tactical drill. A young Kreenath warrior, one of the towering green-scaled species that had sneered at them upon arrival, lingered at the edge of the platform. His forearms twitched nervously and his glowing eyes betrayed curiosity. For the first time, he did not look at them with disdain. He studied them, watching their movements, their teamwork, and the way they communicated without words. Then, during a pause in the exercises, the warrior stepped forward. "Your species fights differently," he said in broken Galactic common. "I want to learn." "Teach me?" Ilara looked at him carefully, seeing the hesitation in his posture. She thought of all the ways humans had survived impossible odds, and she realized something profound. They did not see rivals, only potential allies. Humans had always known that cooperation, trust, and adaptability were their greatest strengths. "Step forward," she said. "We will show you." In the days that followed, the humans began to teach him, showing the alien how to move with instinct, how to anticipate, and how to fight as part of a team. Slowly, he began to trust them. Slowly, others noticed. A small group of aliens started joining the humans' exercises, quietly at first, then more boldly. Some still watched skeptically, but others were drawn to the human spirit, the undeniable truth that they thrived where others faltered. Ilara observed all of this with quiet pride. The Crucible had not just tested them, it had revealed the essence of humanity. They did not rely on brute strength or fear to survive. They relied on each other, on courage, and on the unshakable belief that no challenge could defeat a united team. The marshals, watching from above, were growing increasingly frustrated. "This is not how it's supposed to happen," one hissed. "The Crucible is designed to destroy the weak. And yet humans, they are turning it into a training exercise, a demonstration." Ilara did not care. She knew what they were accomplishing. The humans were not just surviving the trial, they were changing it. They were showing the galaxy that true strength was not measured by size, speed, or psychic power, but by heart, determination, and the ability to lift others up even when the odds seemed impossible. One evening, after a grueling day of exercises, the humans gathered around a small fire in a safe zone. Their alien allies, once skeptical observers, now sat among them. The firelight danced across their faces, revealing exhaustion, bruises, and sweat, but also determination, courage, and pride. Humans. "You are different," the Kreenath warrior said quietly. "I thought you would fail. I thought you would break, but you inspire." Ilara smiled, placing a hand on the young alien's shoulder. "We survive together," she said simply. "Alone we may fall, but together we are unstoppable." The arena, which had once been a place of fear and death, was slowly transforming. Other species, witnessing the humans' resilience and kindness, began to wonder if perhaps they had judged too harshly. Perhaps the galaxy had underestimated humanity. And as the humans rested that night, their hearts heavy with fatigue but full of hope, Ilara realized something that no trial could ever teach. The galaxy could try to break humans, but it could not stop them from lifting others, inspiring courage, and turning even the cruelest tests into lessons of unity and strength. For the first time, it was clear. The humans were no longer simply survivors of the Crucible. They were becoming its heart. The final trial of the Crucible was unlike anything the humans had faced before. The arena had transformed into a chaotic battlefield, a labyrinth of fire, collapsing platforms, and psychic storms. From above, it looked like the universe itself had been shattered and thrown into a spinning cage. This was the test meant to break them, to erase humanity from the record of survivors. Ilara James took a deep breath, feeling her team close behind her. "Remember," she said softly, "we survive. Together. Always." The humans stepped forward, hearts pounding, bodies tense, but minds sharp. Around them, other species faltered. Tarvok warriors fell into bottomless chasms. Kreenath soldiers were thrown by the psychic storms. Entire teams had been eliminated within moments. Yet the humans moved as one, synchronized without words, reacting instinctively to every threat. When a plasma serpent lunged from the shadows, its glowing fangs slicing through the air, Mei Ling ducked and rolled, kicking a glowing rock into the creature's path. It stumbled, giving Lieutenant Ramos a chance to grab a metallic shard and deflect the serpent's energy blast. Together they trapped it in a collapsing energy field, neutralizing the threat. Every movement, every thought, every action was precise. The psychic storms were worse. Voices whispered doubts, fears, and regrets directly into their minds. Ilara saw images of her parents, of lost ships, and of worlds destroyed. The visions clawed at her heart, trying to make her stop, trying to make her fail. But she gritted her teeth and focused on her crew. Each human around her did the same, creating a mental chain, holding hands, whispering encouragements. Fear became fuel, pain became strength. Alien spectators watching from the sidelines could not believe what they saw. "How?" one marshal muttered. "They should be dead. All should be dead." But humans did not fight like any other species. They adapted, improvised, and protected each other. When a collapsing platform threatened to crush Mei Ling, Ramos grabbed her arm and pulled her to safety. When psychic waves tried to break Ilara's mind, she leaned on her team and pushed forward. Hours passed, though time in the Crucible never felt real. The final gauntlet was relentless, a relentless barrage meant to crush body, mind, and spirit. Yet the humans endured, their eyes burning with determination, their hearts unyielding. They moved as one organism, a single unit, each member supporting the other. When the last obstacle fell, a swirling vortex of fire and psychic energy, the Crucible's platform glowed, signaling the end. Humans had survived, not because they were stronger than every other species, not because they were faster or more powerful, but because they were humans, resilient, creative, brave, united. Ilara lowered her arms, breathing heavily, her body aching but her heart soaring. Around her, her crew stood battered, bruised, and exhausted. Yet their faces were lit with triumph. They had faced the impossible and survived. They had turned a trial meant to crush them into a testament of human ingenuity, courage, and teamwork. Even the marshals, hardened veterans of countless trials, looked on in stunned silence. They had designed the Crucible to erase the weak, and yet here stood the humans, alive, undefeated, and unbroken. Ilara looked at her team and whispered, more to herself than anyone else. They thought this would break us. They had no idea what humans are capable of. Around them, the young Kreenath warrior and other alien allies clapped quietly, their eyes filled with awe. Some whispered words of respect and admiration. Humans had not only survived, they had inspired others. For the first time, the Crucible felt different. It was no longer a place of fear and death. It had become a place of triumph, proof that resilience, courage, and unity could overcome even the most impossible challenges. And as Ilara looked to the horizon of the arena, she knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had underestimated humans, and now it would never do so again. The humans stepped out of the Crucible, their bodies exhausted, faces bruised, and uniforms scorched from the trials. But there was a light in their eyes, a fire that no obstacle, no enemy, and no impossible challenge could ever dim. They had survived what the galaxy had deemed unbeatable, and now the universe had to face a truth long denied. Humans were not weak. The Galactic Union marshals approached cautiously, their expressions a mixture of disbelief, frustration, and awe. Captain Ilara James stood tall, her chest heaving from exhaustion but her posture unwavering. The lead marshal, an imposing Xiran with 6 glowing eyes, spoke first. Humans, you have survived all trials, all this. This is impossible. No species has ever endured like this. Ilara inclined her head slightly. We survive, she said calmly, her voice carrying the weight of every challenge, every hardship humans had ever faced. We adapt, we grow, and we do it together. The marshals exchanged uneasy glances. For centuries, the Crucible had been a proving ground, a place to separate the strong from the weak, to erase species deemed unfit for interstellar conflict. Humans had not just survived, they had excelled. They had turned a trial designed to crush them into a showcase of teamwork, intelligence, and resilience. Word of their victory spread quickly through the Crucible. Other species, who had once doubted humanity, approached cautiously. Some offered words of respect, others simply stared in awe. Even those who had once laughed at humans now recognized a hard truth. This species was extraordinary. Ilara surveyed her crew. Lieutenant Ramos from Mars had a grin despite his exhaustion. Mei Ling's eyes sparkled with quiet triumph, and the rest of the team carried themselves with pride, knowing they had proven the galaxy wrong. They had faced every obstacle, physical, mental, and emotional, and emerged stronger, united, and undefeated. The Council of the Galactic Union convened in the observation chamber above the Crucible. Hushed murmurs filled the room as they watched the humans below. It was clear that history would have to be rewritten. No longer could humans be considered weak or expendable. Their actions demanded respect, not pity. One elder of the council, an ancient being with translucent skin and countless luminescent veins, spoke solemnly. We designed this crucible to challenge the galaxy's strongest. And yet, humans have surpassed every expectation. They have endured horrors that would crush others. They are remarkable. Ilara felt a surge of pride and humility. She had always known humans were resilient, but to hear it acknowledged by the galaxy's most powerful beings was a moment of quiet triumph. She thought of every human who had come before, every struggle and sacrifice that had paved the way for her crew. This victory was theirs too, but the recognition was more than just accolades. It was a signal to the galaxy that humans could not be ignored, underestimated, or dismissed. Their ingenuity, determination, and unity were weapons just as powerful as claws, wings, or psychic powers. Ilara took a deep breath and looked at the marshals again. We didn't just survive for ourselves, she said softly. We survived to show that hope, courage, and teamwork can overcome any challenge. That strength isn't just muscle or power, it's heart. And humans have heart in abundance. For the first time, the crucible felt different. It was no longer just a test. It was a stage for a species that had defied expectations. Humans had proven that even the most impossible trials could be faced, endured, and conquered. As her crew gathered around her, smiling and supporting one another, Ilara knew that the galaxy's perception of humanity had changed forever. They had not only survived, they had inspired. And this inspiration would echo across worlds, colonies, and civilizations for generations to come. Humans had stepped into a trial designed to crush them, and they had emerged as a force the galaxy could no longer ignore. They were resilient. They were united. They were unstoppable, and the universe would never forget it. The humans left the Crucible not as survivors, but as legends. Every scar on their bodies, every bruise, every burn told a story of courage, resilience, and unity. What had been designed to crush them had instead become a testament to the strength of humanity. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. Humans were different, unpredictable, and unstoppable. Captain Alara James stood at the edge of the spaceport, watching her crew board their ship. Lieutenant Ramos adjusted his harness with a grin. Mei Ling checked their equipment one last time, and the others laughed softly, tired, but radiant with pride. The small ship seemed fragile among the massive fleets surrounding them, yet it carried the weight of a species that had defied the impossible. The Kreenath warrior, who had once doubted them, approached. His eyes, once skeptical, now glowed with respect. "You have changed the Crucible," he said quietly. "Your species is extraordinary," Alara nodded. "We didn't just survive for ourselves. We survived to show that courage, unity, and hope can overcome even the cruelest challenges. Humans are not just fighters. We are innovators, thinkers, and supporters. Together we rise." The warrior bowed, and even the other alien allies murmured their agreement. Humanity's reputation had shifted overnight, from underdogs to an unstoppable force in the galaxy. No longer would other species underestimate them. No longer would humans be dismissed as fragile or expendable. As their ship lifted off, the Crucible shrinking beneath them, Alara reflected on everything they had endured. Every trial had tested their strength, mind, and spirit. They had faced predators, storms, illusions, and death itself. Yet each challenge had only sharpened their instincts and bonded them closer together. Her thoughts drifted to home. The shattered colonies on Mars, the battered cities on Earth, the floating settlements on the Moon. Humanity had survived disasters there too, enduring famine, war, and disease. They had always found a way to rise again, stronger than before. The Crucible was just another stage, another challenge, and once again, humans had proven they were more than capable. In the fleet beyond the Crucible, ships from multiple species began to approach, not to attack, but to offer alliances. Commanders who had once scoffed at humans now sought guidance, eager to learn the strategies, the resilience, and the unity that had allowed a seemingly weak species to conquer the galaxy's deadliest trial. Alara looked at her crew, pride swelling in her chest. "They thought this would break us," she said softly. "But they didn't realize we are humans. We turn trials into lessons, obstacles into opportunities, and fear into courage." The human story spread quickly. Across star systems, colonies, and planets, tales of their victory inspired hope and determination. Young humans on distant worlds looked at them and dreamed bigger. Aliens began to question long-held beliefs, seeing that strength could come in forms other than raw power. Humanity had become a symbol, a beacon of resilience. Years later, when the Crucible continued to test other species, no one doubted the humans. They were no longer just survivors, they were pioneers, innovators, and leaders. Their legacy was not just survival, but inspiration. And on every battlefield, in every council chamber, and across every colony, one truth was clear. Humans had endured what no one thought possible. They had faced impossible odds, terrifying enemies, and insurmountable challenges, and had emerged victorious. Not because they were the strongest in muscle or mind alone, but because they were humans, resilient, united, and unstoppable. Alara watched the stars stretch before them, the ship gliding smoothly into the unknown. "This is only the beginning," she whispered, a smile touching her lips. "The galaxy has underestimated us for too long now. It will never do so again." And with that, humanity's legacy was sealed. Not by fear, but by courage. Not by power, but by heart. And not by chance, but by the unstoppable spirit of those who refused to be broken. The Crucible had been meant to crush them. Instead, it had become their warm-up, and the galaxy would remember it forever.